as a quick aside, within all this, can we just acknowledge for a moment the oddity of Scott Frost being back at UCF? How unusual that is to see him after he was out of the public eye for more than 2 years, really, to come in there and have a press conference. And I don't know, what's coming to your mind when you're seeing Frost back at UCF taking questions like it's 2017?
Well, like I wrote this week, he never should have left, and I think he felt when it came to Nebraska, it was like the no-brainer, the perfect fit. In reality, he wasn't ready for the job in a lot of ways, and I mean the tipping point, maybe or the tip-off, maybe was when in that first press conference. He was like scolding the media or like threatening us. If you talk to my family, I'm
going to lose it on you guys.
Yeah. And so the fishbowl was already eating at him. He already was an awkward fit. He didn't do that in Orlando. So I don't think I think he really loved it, and I think he probably thought in his mind, I'll be at Nebraska one day. But then he got to UCF, and like he said, sometimes on the way up the ladder, you find something better. And he found something better, but he couldn't say no to Nebraska. And Bill Moose had to hire him. But he probably should have had an older staff come with him, or guys that were more experienced, or somebody who knew the Big Ten Conference. Anyway, I don't want to go into why it didn't work out. I'm very happy for him. I think it's going to be great. I think it could be a good fit in that league. The expectations aren't anywhere near what they are here, because in the Big 12, only one goes to the playoff. So
it's not the AAC anymore. Yeah.
So it's but he'll fit well. He'll do well there. I'm happy for him. I'm happy. Not many coaches get a second chance at they leave a place and they kind of wish they hadn't. I can think of a couple of Creighton basketball coaches over the years who left and did not find success. Mm. So, but they had a great gig here, and that happens everywhere. So, good for him. I'm happy for him, and I'm sure Husker fans will be looking at him a little bit to see how he's doing, but I'm rooting for him.
Any Frost thoughts?
No, it's all good.
All right.
I think that's true.
All right. Hey, let's talk a little Pinstripe Bowl here as well. That came out officially. We kind of talked about it last week a little bit, that was the way it was trending, but Nebraska's going to Yankee Stadium Saturday, midday, whatever the weather's going to be like, playing Boston College. What jumps out to you guys about this game, maybe this matchup? What's kind of at stake for Nebraska here as they're at 6-6?
Well, I've watched Boston College a couple times early in the year. They beat Florida State on national TV, and then I watched them against Missouri, and they're just a pain in the butt. They run the ball very well. It's a Bill O'Brien team, and they're fundamentally sound. They aren't great on defense, but they will hold the ball and they will run it right down your throat. And I mean, it's not a sexy matchup. It's not like Nebraska Missouri would have been, or Nebraska Ole Miss with Kiffin, or one of those kind of deals. Oklahoma, one of those, But it's a bowl game, and they should be excited to be there. They are excited to be there. I think it's great that Rule is from New York. He'll get everybody pumped up for it, and they'll have fun. I guess they get there early and they go to the stock exchange and ring the bell, and the teams go all over the city and that week, and it's just a weird bowl game. It's just because it's not it's a city. It's this giant city. Sometimes when you go to a bowl game, it's the biggest thing in town, And this is not the biggest thing in town. It's not even the closest biggest thing in town. It's just something going on. It's like another show, like another whatever.
It's a one-time Broadway performance.
And it's two teams that aren't really well known, and I mean it's not going to attract the casual fan. But it's where Nebraska's going. They're back in the Gotham Bowl, and it should be excited. But again, what I want to know maybe tomorrow is who's going to. I mean, the guys who went in the portal are gone. They're not playing, right?
It seems that way. And that's something we need to probably clarify with Rule, because guys have done that where they've gone into the portal, but they've stayed.
Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State's telling his guys, I will help place you, but stay with the bowl, stay with us for the bowl game, or the playoff. It's fun to be back in the bowl business.
Can I ask you this, Sam? Is this bowl game more? It's probably both, but is it more an end to the 24 season, or is it more a beginning to the 25 season, given the attrition, the coaching changes, just kind of this state of flux that Nebraska's in this moment?
I think it's a beginning to the 25, while also nodding to there's a bunch of guys on the defensive side of the ball that'll be doing it for one last time. And so you have to acknowledge that, but simultaneously, that's absolutely a beginning to 25 and a tricky one, because the team that they're playing is pretty good. It's not great, but they do some things that when you kind of watch them on film, you like. They are tough. They are physical. They do run the ball. They had this unique quarterback change basically 2/3 of the way through the season. The starter just transferring. The backup was a thrower, and they've thrown the ball pretty well in the last in the last month. They lost to SMU, but they beat Pitt, and they beat Syracuse. And I mean, they got better as the season went on. But Nebraska fans, and I think a lot of people, kind of expect Nebraska to win that game, and I don't think it's going to be an easy game. And then the other piece that's tricky about it is the weather is completely variable. Nobody's going to know until about a week ahead of time what the weather's going to be like in that stadium. And if you were going down to Nashville, you'd be like, well, it's going to be about 57. If you were going to Tampa, you're going to be like, well, it's going to be 72. Maybe it'll rain, but we know it's not going to be cold. In New York, on that day, it could be 51 and sunny. It could be 26 and snowy. It's just hard to know. And so, you don't exactly know what kind of football game you're getting yourself into. And then there's all the acclimation things that you have to do when you play in a baseball stadium on grass that's really not suited for football. I mean, baseball turf is frankly much prettier than football grass turf, and it's probably a little looser, and so they're going to have to deal with all kinds of stuff that you don't normally deal with, and so it's a tricky football game. And I'm sure Nebraska would have rather played, even though Missouri is a better team than Boston College. I think Nebraska probably would have rather gone and said, all right, hey guys, we're going to play an SEC team in Nashville, and you better tighten your chin straps, because they got two first-round receivers, and with Boston College, you don't really know who they are. They might have one of the 4 or 5 best edge rushers in the country. You're going to have to block him. Good luck. If he plays. And he might, because he probably wants to get a first-round grade, and this will be an opportunity for him to do that. So, there's a lot of variables there that's going to make this game tricky. I don't get the sense that, I think what we're going to get from Matt is a little bit of subdue, yep, we're getting ready. We're getting ready to go. I don't know that there's going to be a high peak of excitement. It's going to be business-like, because I think they probably feel like they got to go and play football. Now, one advantage is that John Butler knows Bill O'Brien inside and out. That's one advantage that they have, is that Butler obviously knows everything that Bill O'Brien does.
And Bill O'Brien, and he ain't changing. No. Bill O'Brien ain't changing.
He is.
So he worked for O'Brien for many years. So that's an advantage that the Butler will be able to kind of dissect it. But on the flip side of the coin, how much is Holgorsen going to change? I think there's some things that they can get done, but we'll just have to see. I think Nebraska's got to run the football. I think they got to run the football for $175 to 200.
Yeah,
and I think they actually can. Boston College's defense isn't very good. The defenses in the ACC generally aren't very good. That's why they're going to get thunderstruck in the playoff. But, I think Nebraska needs to put 400 on the board yardage-wise and probably about 31 points, because I think Boston College will score.
I peaked at the weather, by the way.
What's it say?
Long range, sunny, high of 35.
Okay.
Open air press box. So bring your stocking hat and your big jacket and your gloves.
Yeah.
See if you can type with gloves.
Hand warmers, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they might have a heater, but in the open air. But who knows? I'm curious. I think the only thing about this bowl I don't like is the timing of it. Right after Christmas and right before New Year's. Airfare right now, if you wanted to do it right now, is like $1,500 round trip, $1,700 round trip. That's everybody. The hotels are $500 to $900 a night.
Yep.
I don't think a lot of Husker fans are going to go. I don't anticipate planes, loading up planes of people in red going to New York. I think it'll be the East Coast Huskers that'll show up for this one. But I'm not anticipating and I've heard some Husker fans saying, I don't know about this bowl. I don't know about the matchup. I'm not that excited about it. Well, they should be, but it's just human nature. So, I'd be interested to see how many fans are there. I think they'll have their share. But yeah, it's going to be cold, but it'll be sunny.
Yeah, that's a fire up the nacho bar Saturday at noon in my Husker Cave kind of game. Like it just doesn't feel like a destination event. I would love to see the Big Ten go ahead and pull out of that contract and let the Pinstripe Bowl make its own decisions from there. But the
it's
Big
tough
Ten's
on fans. It's just tough on fans to make them go. Apparently, the people who go to New Year's Eve go that weekend. They arrive that weekend in New York. So that's why the prices are so high. So it's tough.
And I don't know how this is all going to work with the Pac-12 because it's reforming its league. But as it stands right now, the Pac-12, if it reformed its league and it started populating its bowl games with these new teams, those games are not going to flourish because you're not going to get a bunch of people to go for Fresno State and whatever. So I would love to see the Big Ten sort of resorb some of those bowl games. Let's get back into the holiday. Let's get back in Vegas. And I would love to see the Big Ten in the Sun Bowl. El Paso obviously isn't maybe the ideal destination, but shoot, go down there and play.
It's warm.
That would be fun. And so, get back in Texas.
San Antonio.
Play in the Alamo Bowl.
The Alamo Bowl's great, yeah.
And I just don't. I think the Big East or the Big Ten has been very, the Belk Bowl or whatever, the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte,
Detroit,
on January 3rd.
Detroit,
Holy Moses! Who's going to go to Charlotte on January 3rd? Do you know how to say? Did you see how many people went to Charlotte for the ACC championship game? Like 9.
Yeah, most people are going back to work on January 3rd.
These are terrible bowl games. They got to get out of that and get back into Texas, where at least when you're in Texas and you have a bowl game on December 28th, you can count on 8,000 Texans showing up because they like football. But nobody cares about that stuff in Charlotte. Nobody cares about it in New York City. So I'd love to see the Big Ten evolve its bowl matchups.
Last time Nebraska played in a baseball stadium was, I figure you might know this. I don't know right off the top of my head, but one of the Holiday Bowls maybe?
Sure.
That'd be the last one? It's been a while.
Tom would know the last time that.
That was an NFL stadium too. But it'd be San Diego. The San Francisco. That was NFL only.
They play in the Diamondbacks Stadium?
No, they never played in that bowl.
That wasn't there. Okay.
They never played in that bowl.
No.
They haven't been to Phoenix since 1999. It's time.
They played in the Metrodome.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
it
nothing like Wrigley or Fenway or.
They never got the Wrigley Field game with Northwestern. I always thought that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Not a lot of it.
No, I think it's very rare. I think it's Jack Murphy back when it was called that, and then the Metrodome, and then
nowhere in Texas. They never played it. Rangers or Astros.
I mean, the Gotham Bowl they did play. Right?
Yeah.
Not many.
No.
Right? It's kind of a fun little
Yankee Stadium.
factoid.
Yeah.
That's a very fun little thing.
Yep.
I guess it would be San Diego. But I don't know that do the Padres playing in they were in 1998. They weren't they? They were still playing in that.
I don't know about
right?
08 or 09. I think Petco was
Yeah, they were playing there in 08, in 90. Yeah, no 08. Yeah, God, I'm not sure. When they went to Tokyo, was that a baseball stadium also?
No.
It wasn't. It was football.
The Tokyo Dome was. I don't think it was baseball. No. San Diego in 08. Petco was there, so it would have been 98.
When they lost to Arizona.
Yeah.
A good game against a really good team.
Hey, let's close with this. College football playoff has its first 12-team field. After all the wailing and gnashing of teeth and debates, SMU gets in, Alabama's not. What's take it any direction you want. Are there some games that you guys are looking for, or if you want to look at it from a Nebraska perspective, are there takeaways from how this field came together that could be helpful or that could apply to Nebraska as they try to get into this field in the future?
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I do. So I'm writing about this for Sunday. So I asked Evan to bring this up because this is interesting, and this is also going to riff off something Tom said many times about the Big Ten West.
All right.
I went back and I looked at the profile of all 12 teams that made the playoff in terms of their offense. And you can create profiles, and I'll do this for all the 12 teams on offense and defense. But let's just say that Nebraska's profile on defense is somewhat similar to the 12 teams. Not exactly, but somewhat similar, much closer to. When you look at the offensive profiles of the 12 teams that made it, Nebraska's nowhere close. I mean, they're nowhere close. Nebraska had the 97th scoring offense in the nation. None of the 12 teams had a scoring offense lower than 30. Yards per game, Nebraska was 94th. None of the offenses had a yards per game offense lower than 47th, and that was Georgia. Yards per play, Nebraska was 106th. None of these teams had a yards per play lower than 45th, and again, that was Georgia. Passing yards per game, Nebraska was 66th. That in that area, Notre Dame's 101st.
Okay.
And so there's that. Yards per carry, Nebraska was 98th. Georgia was 80th, but a lot of the other teams were a lot higher. The bottom line is that Nebraska's offense needs to get a heck of a lot better if they're going to make that thing. And we've kind of known that about the playoff for a while now. People still have embedded in the back of their minds that it's 2011 and Alabama can give up 9 points a game and win games 13-6 and beat LSU and all that. That's over. And Nick Saban changed when he hired Lane Kiffin because he knew he had to. And that's been 10 years ago that occurred. And so you have to score points. Scott Frost was not wrong about that. You do have to score football points in order to win big in college football. Now, here's the point to Tom. I did this earlier in the season, and I knew I was going to go back and do it at the end, and this will be part of the story on Sunday, too. Tom used to say that Nebraska was slumming in the Big Ten West. And the way he meant it was that the overall quality of the football dragged everybody down. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just that Nebraska was winning the Big Ten West, but that the overall quality dragged everybody down. Mm-hmm. The Big Ten West, the former Big Ten West teams this year were 25-38 in the Big Ten. Now, 28 of those games were against each other, and of course they were 14-14 in those games. That means against the former Big Ten East and the Pac-12 new 4 teams, the Big Ten West was 11-24. Mm-hmm. They were 8-16 against the old Big Ten East, and they were 3-8 against the Pac-12 teams. Only one of the 6-7 teams had a winning record, and that was Illinois.
And they maxed out in a big way.
Now, if there's something that says slumming in the Big Ten West, there's nothing that says that more than 11-24. Now, yes, did Purdue skew that? Sure, but they lost a lot of games to teams in the West. That is telling. And you know what? And then I went back and I looked, okay, well, what were the offensive rankings of the former Big Ten West teams? The scoring offense ranking was 11.3. The yards per play was yards per game was 11.6. Yards per point was 13th. The offenses in the Big Ten, the former Big Ten West, stink. And that, if you want to take away circle a takeaway about what Nebraska's got to do is they have to lift off what that division was doing to them. Every team in that division does, because none of them were anywhere close to making the playoff, and Indiana made it.
They did.
So that's my takeaway, is that the offense has to get way better. And you can win games 16-13 all you like, but you are not making the playoff based on that resume. And I think that's something that Matt Rule has quickly learned. If you want to play those kind of games with teams, you better be prepared to lose at least half, and Nebraska's lost way more than that. That's my takeaway.
How about the strength of schedule piece, Tom? That was another major talking point out of this thing. How important is that? You know, there was talk, speculation really, that Nebraska should cancel its series with Tennessee because they're already playing enough hard games in the Big Ten. Like, do you feel like what you've seen with this field, the committee is rewarding strength of schedule, or is it, hey, let's just win as many games as you can, avoid the losses, and hope it plays out?
I think it's important to win a couple of the big ones. I think it's more important that you not lose. I think that's what kept Alabama out. They lost one too many, and I also look at the type of schedule you have is it's like a lottery thing. We're going to find out today the wheres and whens of the next year's schedule, but Indiana really benefited from having a softer Big Ten schedule with the older team, and you got to line these things up. Because you're not going to, Nebraska's not going to go. They might go to the playoff once every several years. I mean, you got to line it up. Unless you're going to be Penn State, can Nebraska recruit the kind of team that James Franklin has? Or it's more likely will they have a team like Indiana had, which was a bunch of older guys, transfers, who were just ballers. They just love to play ball, and they're very good. They have some speed. They had a good offense. They could score a lot of points. But it went with the schedule they had. They didn't play a lot of the tougher teams in the Big Ten. And they went to UCLA and won, right? And that was early. But I'm just saying, if there's a formula, it's get old and I get the schedule lined up. Because if you have 3 losses, and maybe that's where that non-conference thing comes in, I don't know that the committee cares about the non-conference right now. Alabama, they played at Wisconsin. Of course, that's a power game against a team that was not a power team. But SMU, I mean, they didn't play a great non-con. I mean, who's there? I think BYU was their big one, and they lost to them. So I just think, the same with like Clemson, they lost to Georgia bad. So, how did they won the league? But I'm just saying they had that kind of team. So I think schedule-wise, realignment has caused these leagues to have unbalanced schedules, and you never know what you're going to get, and it won't be the same thing every year. There won't be round robins. There won't be the same people every year. So you kind of have to just pick your shot. Which year is it going to be? And you can look down the road and see. What you can't see is, okay, with this year, Nebraska might have thought Indiana was a game you could win. Well,
right.
All of a sudden it wasn't. So you can look down the schedule 2 or 3 years and go, this might be the year, but then you get to it and it might not be the year.
Right.
That makes sense?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. You guys have anything else you want to add?
I think that's good.
All right.
It's going to be a fun Nebraska volleyball Final Four. Let's see.
Yep. We'll see if they can get down there. Volleyball this weekend, CFP looming a little bit closer to the Pinstripe, and, of course, a ton of portal churn and who knows what else from Nebraska football. For Sam and Tom, I'm Evan. This is the Pick 6 podcast with the Omaha World-Herald. Thanks for listening, Husker fans.